bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Will the tensions in West Asia take a catastrophic turn? Experts say Iran could be just 6 months away from having 10 nuclear warheads ready to aim at its enemies. What would that mean for the region, and where do things stand right now? We decode this and more in just a bit as a part of our top story tonight on Gravitas. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show. As the protests by jailed ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's party intensify on the ground, we get you a special report with live updates. Tensions continue to escalate in the South China Sea, where a Chinese aircraft carrier flanked by 4 destroyers and a fast combat support ship was spotted alarmingly dangerously close to a Japanese island. We tell you all about this, all this and more coming up. How much worse can the Iran-Israel tensions really get? Looking at the way things stand right now, it turns out the situation is about to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. You see, as Israel prepares its response to the Iranian attack, all eyes are on Iran's nuclear facilities. Last night, we told you about the nuclear sites potentially on Israel's radar. And tonight, we tell you just how nuclear capable Iran really is. And it's a lot, by the way. In fact, experts say that Iran could be just 6 months away from having 10 nuclear warheads ready to aim at its enemies. 10 of them. You heard that right. And if you really think that things will not escalate to that level, let's just get you up to speed with what really has happened. And then you be the judge. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei led the Friday prayers for the first time in 5 years. And during his speech, Khamenei said that the Muslim nations have a common enemy. He said that Muslim nations have to strap the belt of defense from Afghanistan to Yemen, from Iran to Gaza and Lebanon. Addressing worshippers in Tehran with a rifle by his side, Khamenei said that the region will be at peace if the US, Europeans leave. Listen in.
In our region, the root cause of problems that causing all these wars, conflicts, hostilities and anxiety is the presence of those that claim they are after peace and calm in the region, namely America and some European countries. If they rid the region of their presence, no doubt these conflicts, war and clashes will completely go away.
In fact, Khamenei also defended Hamas and Hezbollah's actions, promised that Iran's allies will not back down, and most importantly, said that Israel will not last long. A bit ominous, isn't it? And what does he mean? We know that the next move will be from Israel. It will be an attack. The question is when, where, and just how bad will it be? Will it rise to nuclear proportions? There is a reason why we are asking that question. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak has said that Israel may launch a symbolic attack on Iran's nuclear-related facilities. Not just Barak, a lot of commentators, in fact, agree that Israel could respond by striking Iran's nuclear sites. It could justify the bombing campaign by saying that it was trying to set Iran's nuclear program back. But if reports are to go by, Iran's nuclear program may be too far advanced for any bombing campaign to actually set it back significantly. A former deputy director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has said that Iran could be just 6 months away from having 10 nuclear warheads ready to aim at its enemies. The expert has visited Iran sites on several occasions. His name is Oli Henonen. As the former deputy director of the IAEA, Henonen oversaw its efforts to monitor and contain Iran's nuclear program in the past. He also said that if Iran rushed, it could have the arsenal ready by next April. In an interview with the British daily The Times, Henonen said, and I'm quoting here, "You cannot wipe out a country with those missiles, but you can threaten it and be in a much stronger position in negotiations." Now, officially, Iran says that its nuclear program is purely for civilian purposes, but Israel and the West have long said that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon. In fact, in August, the IAEA said that Iran had increased its stockpile of uranium enriched to 60% to almost 165 kg. That is 20 kg more than the UN's nuclear watchdog reported 3 months ago in the month of May, by the way. Some 90% enrichment is required to make a nuclear bomb. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that Iran could achieve that in a few months if it wished to. What's more, the missiles fired by Iran at Israel on Tuesday night can be reportedly used for delivery of nuclear weapons. It's just a matter of putting it in the payload, designing it in a way that it actually survives the flight. But just because Iran can make a nuclear weapon, does it mean that it will? It's hard to say. Even though the Iranian supreme leader has defended Hamas and Hezbollah, Iran has stated that it does not want a war. But Iran has also vowed to take action if Israel takes any action. Could Iran then be using its nuclear weapons as a bargaining chip and a threat? It is quite possible. Will Israel, anticipating Iran's next move, go after Iran's nuclear facilities first? That also is quite possible. On Wednesday, US President Joe Biden said that he does not support an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear sites. But then again, does he really have any sway over Netanyahu anymore? You see, it has increasingly become evident that Biden has little influence over what Netanyahu does. The US has already failed to persuade its ally, to which it gives billions of dollars for its defenses, not to go into Rafah in Gaza, not to invade Lebanon. All warnings that Netanyahu has consistently ignored. The ball is in Israel's court. As for Iran, its centrifuge centers are buried way below mountainous regions, protected by troops and air defense missiles. Hitting these nuclear facilities, which enrich uranium, would not only devastate Iran, it could in fact engulf the entire world. A brazen nuclear saber-rattling is going on in West Asia. The rest of the world cannot and must not ignore this at any cost. Meanwhile, Russia has decided to remove the Taliban from the terror list. According to the Russian state news agency, Russia's foreign ministry has said on Friday that a decision to remove the Taliban from a list of terrorist organizations had been taken at the highest level. President Putin's special representative on Afghanistan, Zamir Kabulov, was quoted as saying that the decision needs to be followed up with various legal procedures in order to make it a reality. In the month of July, Putin had said that Russia considered Afghanistan's Taliban movement an ally in the fight against terrorism. Since it seized power in Afghanistan in August 2021 and following the withdrawal of the US-led forces, Russia has been slowly building ties with the Taliban. To be clear, it is still officially outlawed in Russia. No country has formally recognized the Taliban as the country's legitimate leadership, although China and the UAE have accepted its ambassadors. Russia added the Taliban to its list of terrorist organizations in 2003. Removing it would be an important step by Moscow towards normalizing ties with Afghanistan. The Taliban's acting foreign minister, Amir Khan Muttaqi, said in a speech in Moscow that recent decisions by Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan to remove the former insurgents from a list of banned groups was a welcome step. In fact, Muttaqi said, and I'm quoting here, "We also appreciate the positive remarks by the high-ranking officials of the Russian Federation in this regard and hope to see more effective steps soon," quote unquote. And speaking at a meeting in Moscow with Muttaqi and representatives of neighboring countries, the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, said Moscow was convinced of the need to maintain pragmatic dialogue with the current Afghanistan government. He said, and I'm quoting here, "It is obvious that it is impossible to solve problems or even discuss an Afghan settlement without Kabul. Moscow will continue its course on developing political, trade, and economic ties with Kabul," quote unquote. Now, while he did not mention the Taliban by name, he praised the current Afghan leadership for its efforts to curb drug production and fight the Taliban's adversary, Islamic State, which is also, remember, outlawed in Russia. Muttaqi said that countries in the region should cooperate against the Islamic State, which he said had established training centers outside Afghanistan. Lavrov said the United States should return confiscated assets to Afghanistan and the West should acknowledge responsibility for the post-conflict reconstruction of the country. And what's more, Lavrov has also called for an increase in humanitarian aid to Afghanistan and said that Russia would keep sending it food and essential goods. This development is huge. Remember, Russia has had a troubled history in Afghanistan, where the Soviet army invaded in 1979 to support a pro-Moscow government. Russia withdrew 10 years later after sustaining heavy casualties at the hands of the fighters. Russia and its post-Soviet neighbors have suffered recurrent attacks from Islamist militant groups linked to Afghanistan, most recently in March, when 145 people were killed in an attack claimed by the Islamic State at a concert hall near Moscow. On to Pakistan now, which is witnessing another wave of protests by the jailed ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's party. The PTI is carrying out demonstrations in Islamabad. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is taking to the streets for 2 days to demand the release of the party founder Imran Khan and also protest against a slew of issues, including the judiciary's independence. Party leaders and supporters have been met with heavy security and layers of barricading there. Security forces were also seen using tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. In the latest, Imran Khan's sister Alima Khan has been arrested from D Chowk, which is the ground zero of the protests.
The police have now started firing tear gas shells at what you see behind me. Those white clouds, those thick white clouds are essentially that of the tear gas that is being fired. Will just walk across and try to get close to the police. They're trying to make sure that the protesters don't get onto this side of the D Chowk. They're currently at the Jinnah Avenue, about 100 or so meters away from where we are, and the police are trying their level best to make sure. What you see behind me, those are essentially the PTI protesters. What you see there behind those thick smoke clouds are PTI protesters who are there. And who are there in numbers, who are there in greater numbers, and there's only one agenda, one point for the police right now that's there, that is to prevent those protesters from getting here at the D Chowk itself. And as far as Pakistan for WION World is one.
Now, ahead of the protests, Pakistan's government and other opposition parties urged the PTI to delay their protest by 2 weeks on account of foreign dignitaries in the capital. However, in anticipation of some demonstrations proceeding ahead, authorities have deployed 6,000 police and paramilitary personnel. They have also placed over 300 containers at the entry and exit points of the capital to deter the protesters. The PTI chief, Imran Khan, remember, was reportedly relayed a message through a senior leader to postpone the protest. However, the PTI founder responded, saying that his party would put off the demonstration if the government agreed to postpone the constitutional amendments till the 25th of August. This is the situation on the ground in Pakistan right now, where the protests have only intensified. In fact, these are the scenes that we got to you just a while ago as the demonstrations continue. Remember, there had been calls for the postponement of the protests. Meanwhile, the Pakistan government, also the opposition parties, had urged the PTI to delay their protest by 2 weeks on account of foreign dignitaries in the capital. Let's go straight across now to our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik, who's joining us live on the broadcast. Anas, we saw that report that give us a sample of what the situation is looking like right now on the ground. Tell us more about where things stand right now.
Well, they stand at a stalemate, it won't be wrong to say, because Ali Amin Gandapur, the Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, he's coming in with a big, massive cavalcade. They're about 35 kilometers from Islamabad. I'm standing at the D Chowk at an elevation of a building. What you see behind me, if my camera person couldn't show you as well, those are police personnel lined up. Time to time, I can spot the IG police, the Inspector General of Islamabad Police, Akbar Nasir, Ali Rezvi, pardon me on that. He's speaking to the media right now. Time and again, we see that the PTI protesters, they come here and then they are sort of pushed back because there's heavy use of tear gas, bait-in charges, rubber bullets as well. The PTI alleges that there have been direct firing that has been done, but the situation does not seem to be all under control, and that is the reason the government, at least 13 days before the SCO summit itself, they have called in the military to control the law and order situation of the city itself. The military deployment will be completed by 12 midnight. And ahead of the SCO, protests like these, they don't do good to the optics of the country. Molly?
Right, we're leaving it there for the moment, Anas. Of course, we're coming back to you as and when there are further updates trickling in. Thanks very much for now. Boris Johnson's latest revelations are causing many to raise their eyebrows. In his upcoming memoir, Unleashed, the former British Prime Minister claims that a listening device was found in his personal bathroom at the British Foreign Office after the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu used the facilities. As per Johnson, in 2017, when he was serving as Britain's Foreign Secretary, he had a meeting with Netanyahu. After Netanyahu used the bathroom, Johnson's security team allegedly found a bugging device in the toilet. In his memoir, Johnson reportedly narrated the incident but did not expand much on the event, really, telling UK's Telegraph that all the details about his encounter with Netanyahu are already in the book. So is it just a story meant to help selling the books, or is it a reflection of the growing frustration with Netanyahu, even among political allies? Now, Johnson's claims may sound like the plot of a spy novel, but it's far from the first time that such accusations have been levied at Israel. Back in 2019, Politico reported that US intelligence believed Israeli operatives were responsible for planting cell phone surveillance devices around Washington, D.C., near sensitive locations, including the White House. The devices were reportedly designed to mimic cell towers and could extract data from nearby phones, potentially compromising highly confidential information. Israel, at the time, denied these allegations, with Netanyahu himself calling them complete fabrications. So, why is this 5-year-old matter once again in focus? Johnson's story, while fascinating on its own, perhaps lends perspective to a bigger issue here: Netanyahu's dwindling credibility on the global stage. His behavior starting to alienate even his staunchest allies, it seems. You see, the Johnson matter might be just a footnote in the Israeli leader's career, but it perhaps reveals how tired even allies are becoming of Netanyahu's antics. We are saying that because reports indicate just this. As per reports, Netanyahu's decisions in recent months have baffled and frustrated many. Just 2 weeks ago, Netanyahu flat out rejected a ceasefire proposal put forth by the US and allies to try and calm the tensions between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. The White House was reportedly taken aback and frustrated. The National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the Israelis had been fully briefed on the proposal and they knew every word of it. Yet, Netanyahu not only rejected the proposal but later instructed the Israeli military to continue its offensive against Hezbollah with full force. As per reports, Netanyahu seemed unfazed with the possibility of a West Asia war, reportedly driven not by the will of Israelis or allies, but by his own political survival. And this is not just speculation, by the way. Even US President Joe Biden, a longtime ally of Israel, has reportedly grown wary of Netanyahu's tactics. Reports say Biden has privately expressed frustration with the Israeli Prime Minister, accusing him of putting his political ambitions ahead of any real desire for peace. Reports also say Biden felt humiliated by Netanyahu after the Israeli leader's sudden rejection of the ceasefire. First, Netanyahu indicated he was open to a pause in the fighting, and then, as soon as the proposal became public, he reportedly turned his back on it, likely due to pressure from the far-right factions in his own cabinet. As per reports, Netanyahu's pattern of saying one thing to international allies in private and doing the complete opposite once he faces domestic pressure is becoming a trend. Whether it is in negotiations with Hezbollah or Hamas, Netanyahu's decisions seem to not be about protecting Israel or its people. Instead, they seem to be about maintaining his grip on power. So this is not just about a listening device here. found in Boris Johnson's bathroom, allegedly, or a rejected ceasefire proposal. It's about a world leader who experts say is increasingly out of step with both his allies and the demands of his people. Boris Johnson's little anecdote about Netanyahu perhaps serves as a metaphor for the growing distrust surrounding the Israeli leader. Netanyahu's credibility seems to be eroding, not just in Washington, London or Paris, but even among those who used to stand firmly in his corner. And as Israel fights on multiple fronts and his political future looks uncertain, the question remains, how much longer can Netanyahu continue with this? On to some breaking news coming in from Bangladesh. A massive protest is underway in the capital, Dhaka. Leaders from various temples and monasteries across Bangladesh, college and university students, as well as leaders from minority communities, have staged the protest. As per reports, they are demanding justice and protection for minorities in the country. The Combined Minority Alliance, as they are being referred to, has put forth an 8-point demand. Demands including the guarantee of justice for the persecution of minorities, enacting a Minority Protection Act, forming a Ministry of Minority Affairs, and upgrading Hindu, Buddhist and Christian welfare trusts to foundations. These are the images that we're getting to you from on the ground in Dhaka, and we will be keeping a close eye on the very latest. Let's now turn our focus once again to the escalating tensions in the South China Sea, where reports say a Chinese aircraft carrier flanked by 4 destroyers and a fast combat support ship was spotted alarmingly close to a Japanese island. This sighting has reportedly sparked a strong diplomatic response from Japan, with the country calling these maneuvers a direct threat to its security and stability. So what does this mean for regional peace? What does this mean for the region? How serious is this latest provocation by China? Our next report telling you more.
Japan has reported the sighting of a Chinese aircraft carrier flanked by 4 destroyers and a fast combat support ship. As per the Japanese Ministry of Defense, the vessels were seen southeast of the Philippines' main island, Mindanao, heading towards the Celebes Sea. The sighting earlier happened close to Okino-Torishima, Japan's southernmost island, between September 20 and September 21. At one point, the carrier was a mere 1,520 kilometers southeast of this Japanese atoll. As per reports, this is the closest China has ever ventured near Japan's southwestern territories. This proximity set off alarm bells ringing in Tokyo, prompting Japan to initiate a diplomatic protest, stating that such maneuvers threaten the stability of the entire region. It is important to remember this is not just one incident. Japan's security concerns have shot up. Less than 2 weeks ago, Tokyo accused a Chinese military intelligence aircraft of violating its airspace near the East China Sea. As per reports, as the vessels made its way from Japan towards Philippines, Chinese fighter jets and helicopters reportedly conducted as many as 220 takeoffs and landings from the aircraft carrier and its escorting vessels. In addition to aircraft sorties, perhaps signaling that these operations aren't just military drills, but power plays instead, as China continues to try and assert its dominance in these contested waters. The moves come at a time when the US is reportedly preparing for joint military exercises with the Philippines. These drills, known as Sama-Sama 2024 and Kamandag 8, are reportedly designed to bolster cooperation between the US and its regional allies, like the Philippines, in the face of China's growing belligerence. The latest Chinese incident comes at a time when the situation in the South China Sea is only worsening. This past week alone, we have seen at least 2 significant confrontations involving Chinese forces. In one incident, Chinese law enforcers allegedly attacked Vietnamese fishing boats operating near the disputed Paracel Islands. According to local reports, around 40 individuals aboard 2 Chinese vessels assaulted the Vietnamese fishermen with iron pipes, leaving several seriously injured, some with broken arms and legs. In another development, Chinese naval forces reportedly aimed high-powered lasers at a Philippine aircraft during a routine patrol near the Half Moon Shoal in the South China Sea. The lasers are reportedly known to temporarily blind pilots. In addition, Chinese forces were also seen chasing 2 Philippine boats in the same area. These incidents are raising fears of a growing pattern of China escalating its military presence in the South China Sea. Whether it is attacking fishermen or violating airspace, Beijing seems to be making it clear that it views the South China Sea as its own backyard, even willing to push the region to the brink of conflict.
Chagos Islands. The UK's last African colony has been returned to Mauritius. It's a major milestone in decolonization. The United Kingdom has announced that agreement has been reached to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, ending decades of dispute and negotiation over Britain's last African colony. Diego Garcia, the largest island in the Chagos archipelago, will remain under the control of the UK and the US for military purposes, with operations continuing for at least another 99 years. Just for some context and a quick backgrounder here, this is where the Chagos Islands lie on the map. Britain, which has controlled the region since 1814, detached the Chagos Islands in 1965 from Mauritius, a former colony that became independent 3 years later to create the British Indian Ocean Territory. In the early 1970s, Britain evicted almost 2,000 residents to Mauritius and the Seychelles to make way for an airbase on Diego Garcia, the largest island, which it had leased to the United States in 1966. A non-binding resolution in the United Nations General Assembly in 2019 said Britain should give up control of the archipelago after wrongfully forcing the population to leave. In the year 2016, Britain's Foreign Ministry extended Diego Garcia's lease until 2036 and declared the expelled islanders would not be allowed to go back. The new agreement has said Mauritius would be free to implement a program of resettlement on the islands other than Diego Garcia, with the terms left for Port Louis to decide, basically. Britain has said that it would cede sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius in a deal it said secured the future of the UK-US Diego Garcia military base, and which could also pave the way for people displaced decades ago to return home. What about Mauritius? The Prime Minister of Mauritius has said that Britain's decision to cede sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius marked the completion of a push to decolonize the archipelago. US President Joe Biden has welcomed the deal, saying that it would secure the effective operation of Diego Garcia into the next century. But critics in Britain say it was a capitulation which played into the hands of China, which has close trade ties with Mauritius. One group representing displaced Chagos Islanders expressed anger that they had been shut out of talks, in fact. The British Foreign Minister, David Lammy, has said the deal settled the contested sovereignty of the islands, the last British overseas territory in Africa, while ongoing legal challenges had imperiled the long-term future of Diego Garcia. He said the base, whose strategic significance was demonstrated during the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, where it acted as a launch pad for long-range bombers, was now guaranteed for at least 99 years. In fact, in a statement, Lamy has said the agreement will strengthen their role in safeguarding global security. Biden echoed that statement, by the way, saying Diego Garcia played a vital role in regional, national, and global security. He said it enables the United States to support operations that demonstrate the shared commitment to regional stability, provide rapid response to crises, and counter some of the most challenging security threats we face. You see, this is a major milestone in decolonization. India has welcomed the UK-Mauritius agreement. The agreement also holds broader implications for the geopolitical landscape of the Indian Ocean. Diego Garcia plays a crucial role in military operations across West Asia, South Asia, and East Africa, after all, making it one of the most strategically important military bases in the world. What if we told you there is a new race in space between China and the United States? But this has got nothing to do with exploration. Rather, it is about something much more symbolic. What time it is on the moon. Yes, they are battling each other to decide what the time on the moon will be. Let's just break down for you what's really going on here. As per reports, the US, through NASA, is pushing to establish a new time standard for the moon. Reports say they are calling it Coordinated Lunar Time, LTC. And reports say the US is leading a coalition of 43 countries, including India, that have signed on to the Artemis Accords, an international agreement that basically aims to set the rules for exploration on the moon and beyond. Now, the key part of this plan, a common lunar clock that all missions will follow, making sure that everyone is quite literally on the same page, or perhaps in this case, the same second or minute. But you see, the accords do not include China and Russia. Instead, they are reportedly working on their own lunar ambitions. As per reports, China is aiming to set up its own lunar time and navigation system, separate from what America is building, and this is where the competition really heats up. China, you see, wants to set the lunar rules for itself and its allies, and it's not waiting around to follow someone else's clock, quite literally. In fact, reports say China plans to have a time zone and coordinated lunar communication in place by 2028. These two different approaches perhaps set the stage for a divided future on the moon in a way. Just take a moment here and imagine two completely different time zones, time systems, one by the US, one by China, where the missions might not even be able to synchronize their watches. Doesn't that just sound chaotic, complicated? But that is very much the reality that we could be heading towards if these two sides do not find common ground. As per reports, NASA is working on setting up atomic clocks on the moon's surface that will basically tick slightly faster than those on planet Earth. Why is that? Because time works differently in space. The weaker gravitational field on the moon causes clocks to tick faster than Earth. Atomic clocks on the moon will basically tick 56 microseconds faster than those on Earth. And that's not all. Reports say setting a time standard on the moon has its own share of complexities. For one, clocks on the moon's surface will run differently than clocks in the lunar orbit. And that means countries have to figure out a time system that reportedly works for both astronauts on the ground and satellites circling above. A massive technical and mathematical challenge. But the battle between the US and China may not just stem from this scientific necessity. There is a lot more to this. You see, time has always been a symbol of power. In the late 19th century, when Greenwich Mean Time, commonly known as GMT, was established as the global standard, it wasn't just a decision based on convenience. It was a reflection, basically, of the British Empire's dominance in science, trade, and navigation at the time. And by controlling time, Britain controlled global commerce. Today, the US and China are trying to do something similar with the moon. Flights can be quite a hassle for everyone, but they are especially challenging for people with disabilities and paralysis. Take the case of a journalist, Frank Gardner. He is a veteran war reporter for the BBC. In the year 2004, he was shot 6 times in the legs by Al-Qaeda sympathizers in Saudi Arabia. It left his legs paralyzed. And quite recently, while on a flight, he claimed he was forced to crawl on the floor of the plane to reach the toilet because onboard aisle chairs allegedly were not in the airline's policy. Narrating his ordeal on the BBC website, Gardner described the incident as humiliating, deeply uncomfortable, and degrading. He said, and I'm quoting, "I know that the discomfort that I and other disabled passengers encounter is dwarfed by the horrors being experienced by people in conflict zones around the world, stories that I cover, so my own experience is minor by comparison. In this instance, it was humiliating to have to shuffle along the floor of an aircraft in front of other passengers in my suit," quote unquote. And responding to this, the airline in question, Polish Airlines, LOT, said that it was deeply sorry for the distressing experience. The airline said that due to limited space, its short-haul flights do not have on-board wheelchairs. They said that they understand the importance of accessibility and promised that they are actively testing solutions. But then Gardner wrote that he cannot accept this. He does credit the cabin staff for being apologetic and as helpful as they could be, but ends by saying that it is shameful that disabled passengers flying out of British airports should still be so discriminated against in this way, quote unquote. You see, the issue that Gardner is raising is a very important one. Earlier this year itself, in the month of May, a Canadian woman with disabilities similarly described the dehumanizing moment that she was carried off an aeroplane in a broken support chair. I'm talking about Tori Lacey, a 26-year-old with spinal muscular atrophy, a condition that basically means she is reliant on a customized electric wheelchair. She shared footage on social media that shows her being precariously lifted down a set of stairs by the ground crew. In the video, one can clearly see the panic on Lacey's face as the video she shared went viral, sparking a major debate around accessibility. Lacey told media outlets post the incident that the aircraft should have pulled into a gate with a jet bridge on arrival, as that would have allowed her to be transferred to her own wheelchair. Naturally, it is humiliating for the person in such situations. Just imagine. Do airlines need to prioritize comfort and accessibility for all, regardless of their physical abilities and regardless of the flight's duration? In today's day and age, with the advancements in science and technology, we can surely do better, right? It's not about going the extra mile. It's about ensuring that travel is an option for all, a comfortable one. It's also about being mindful and thoughtful. And speaking of thoughtfulness, a 4-month-old child's mother, her thoughtful gesture, a heartwarming one, has been winning hearts on social media. On a 10-hour flight from South Korea to the United States, 200 travelers were touched when a fellow passenger, a mother of an infant, distributed bags to all passengers, each containing candy, gum, and earplugs in case her baby cried during the flight. The passenger who shared the picture on social media concluded the post saying, "A show of respect for the freedom of others." Shifting focus now, bird flu has been dominating headlines. The U.S. state of California, which is also the biggest milk-producing state there, has now confirmed 2 human cases of bird flu in people who were in contact with dairy cattle infected by the virus. In the U.S. alone, this shoots the number of infected people who were in contact with dairy cows and poultry up to 15. Another person in the state of Missouri with no immediate contact with animals as well has also tested positive. The virus's jump to cattle in a total of 14 states in the U.S. has gotten scientists and officials scratching their heads about risks posed to human beings from further spread? Should they press the panic button at this point? Let's just get you some context here. As per the California Department of Public Health, the human cases in California are not interlinked, which basically suggests only animal to human spread of the virus. In the state, one of the infected, who is a dairy worker at a facility which reported bird flu cases in cattle, suffered conjunctivitis or pink eye, and at this point is receiving antiviral medication and self-isolating at home. Thankfully, neither of the two reported respiratory issues or chances of hospitalization so far. But what's really going on? In late August, cows at dairy farms in California began testing positive for bird flu. The department further verified that dairy products and pasteurized milk bear no threats and are safe to consume, also adding that even though the risk to general public remains low, those interacting with the infected lot of animals are at a higher risk of contracting the flu. The healthcare workers attending to the Missouri patient showed respiratory troubles, but the virus has not been confirmed in any of them. It may be a bit too early to predict if this is a case of zoonotic transmission, which is basically any disease or infection that spreads easily from vertebrate animals to human beings. The US Food and Drug Administration will soon start testing cow milk set for processing at dairy plants to check if the virus is prevalent in milk. So far, participation of the trial to begin from October 28 is voluntary, and prior test samples show negative results. Meanwhile, deaths of 47 tigers, 3 lions, 1 panther have been reported from the zoos of South Vietnam after a deadly bird flu outbreak. How serious is the situation really? Are human beings at risk as well? What are the authorities saying? Our next report gets you the details.
In South Vietnam, the H5N1 type A virus has been identified from test results from the National Center for Animal Health Diagnosis as the reason behind a string of animal deaths in the months of August and September at the private Mai Quin Safari Park in Long An province in Vuon Chuai Zoo in Dong Nai, near the capital. Fortunately, the zoo staff members in close contact with the animals did not face any respiratory symptoms so far. But are they out of danger, and how many more animals risk dying from the virus? Here are some numbers to consider. According to Education for Nature Vietnam, an NGO focusing on wildlife conservation, a total of 385 tigers were living in captivity in Vietnam at the end of 2023. Among them, almost 310 are kept at 16 privately owned farms and zoos, while the rest seem to languish in state-owned facilities. The World Health Organization flagged increasing reports of deadly outbreaks among mammals caused by influenza viruses. Since 2022, in humans though, this virus manifests a bit differently. The strain can range from being mild to severe, even fatal in certain cases. In 2004, dozens of tigers fell prey to the bird flu or were culled at the world's largest breeding farm in Thailand. Back in March, Vietnam even notified the World Health Organization about the virus, spreading wide and far and claiming a human life. Not just that, earlier this year, the WHO reported the first human case of death from the H5N2 bird flu. WHO spokesperson Christian Lindmeier also expressed his concern over the incident.
The infection of H5N2 is being investigated to see whether he was infected by somebody visiting or by any contact with any animals before.
Globally, experts are concerned about increasing rise in bird flu-related incidents. But how did the animals get infected exactly? The big cats likely caught the virus after consuming meat from infected poultry. However, this isn't common at all. According to an epidemiologist at the University of Hong Kong, big cats have caught and even survived avian influenza before that spread across Southeast Asia in 2003 and 2004. But the latest outbreak has left alarm bells ringing and triggered serious questions about the immunity of these animals. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Lead guitarist George Harrison's iconic Beatles guitar is all set to go up for sale at an auction in November. Our next report telling you all about this. The festival of Diwali might be a while away, but Barbie makers and designer Anita Dongre have kick-started the celebrations. And how? Ahead of the festival of Diwali, Indian designer Anita Dongre is collaborating with a toy maker Mattel, has designed an exquisite Barbie doll to mark the festivities. The Diwali doll wears a moonlight bloom set. It's a contemporary take on the traditional lehenga, and the outfit is paired with a Rajasthan-inspired koti vest. What stands out in the outfit are the nature-inspired motifs. The designer has often, made designs for international celebrities, described the experience as fun and fulfilling. According to the designer, the Barbie Diwali doll represents the fashion-forward modern woman who wears India on her sleeve with pride. And the designer hopes that the doll inspires children around the world to connect with their culture and heritage. Now, this is not the first time that Barbie has received an Indian makeover. In the early 1980s, the company introduced an Indian Barbie as part of the Dolls of the World series. And a few years later, Indian actor Katrina Kaif got a Barbie modeled on her. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. Thanks very much for watching. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Have a good weekend.
This week on Wings, we feature the journey of Kolkata's iconic trams, which are now almost only nostalgic memories as the city discontinues the service. We also cover the recent snake boat race in Kerala in southern India, the new Nintendo Museum in Japan, and cute viral animal stories worldwide, only on WION World is One.
This week on Inside South Asia, we take a look at a new strategic alliance in Asia between China, Russia, Iran and Pakistan. Is this a counter to the Indo-Pacific alliance? Relentless rain wreak havoc in India and Pakistan. Floods and landslides kill 200 people. And Kolkata in India bids farewell to its iconic tram. All this and much more on Inside South Asia.
This week on Take It Out, we tell you about a new scam that can steal your money. Find out about new safety measures for teens on Instagram. And we explain how Australia plans to protect users on dating apps. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
Three men in Benin, including a former minister and the man in charge of President Patrice Talon's security, have been arrested on suspicion of plotting a coup. A group of disabled Kenyan women makes a living by sewing reusable sanitary pads. The money they earn by selling this environmentally friendly product means they don't have to go to the streets of Mombasa to beg. And a South African woman who could be the oldest living person in the world celebrates what is said to be her 118th birthday with a small party at her care home in a town just inland from Cape Town. That's this week on World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
Let's give the people what they want.
As Joker Foley Azar hits screens, we tell you everything about the much anticipated release. Meet Indian filmmaker Amit Sharma as he talks about Maidan, movies and Oscars. And remember the Harry Potter professors who've left behind an everlasting legacy. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
we go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. Now, Iran has once again issued a threat that it would respond to any attacks by the state of Israel that would target its energy and gas infrastructure. The Houthis have said that the strikes by the United States targeted at least 3 rebel-held cities in Yemen, including the capital city of Sana'a and the crucial port city of Hodeidah. And ahead of the Durga Puja festivities, minority groups in Dhaka stage a protest demanding for the safety and well-being of minorities in the country.